It is crazy, just a year later, we're back to the top 10 list once again. Now, if you're OG to the channel, you know I dropped a couple of players' top 10s. It was top 10 PGs, shooting guards, small forwards, power forwards, and centers. I didn't do 6-man, but I should have. But the season had already started, so, you know, that's my fault. This time, we're going to be proactive in it, and we are going to give you the top 10 point guards exiting the NBA season this year. Now, of course, we're going to keep the series going. I'm going to drop another top 10 video going into the next year, and we're going to do one in the middle of the year just to make sure we keep the series going, make sure we keep the OGs of the channel happy, and we got new viewers, we got new subs, so maybe we can actually go crazy on this one. I want to hear what you guys think below. Drop your top 10 point guards right now, and if you're new, like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get into it. At number 10, we got Drew Holiday. He's had his highest points per game total since 2019 with the Pelicans, and the duo with him and Giannis was very good this year since Middleton missed 49 games. Drew Holiday is only at 10 because in the playoffs, it seemed like his offense disappeared. We saw a career year this year in the regular season, but when he was faced against Jimmy Butler, he looked like a shell of himself, and that can only keep him at 10 at this point. Now, he was efficient all year, but he needs to find a way to keep that going into the playoffs. Personally, I think 10 is the perfect spot, and I'm going to be honest, for Drew Holiday, as much as I love him as a player, a two-way guard, number 10 is probably his ceiling. At number 9, I got James Harden. Now, I consider James Harden a point guard because of the fact that he has Tyrese Maxey next to him, but Tyrese Maxey is more so playing the two, whereas James Harden, he has the responsibilities of a point guard. He's the primary facilitator in Philly, and he's a solid one at that. We already know what James Harden brings in terms of his scoring output, but because that has slowed down a lot more, he's had to pay attention to his facilitating and playmaking ability, and he's not bad at that either. He's actually elite. He played a little under 60 games while averaging a double-double, and Harden is still a bucket, don't get me wrong, but he's noticeably lost a step or two. He was a tad inconsistent in their last playoff series, despite being solid throughout the playoffs as a whole. Harden is on the way to ending his career, but nonetheless, he's still a top 10 player at his position because of his playmaking and shot-making ability. The beautiful thing about Harden is that he could be in the top 10 list, whether it's point guards or shooting guards, and that tells you everything you need to know about Harden. Granted, on the shooting guards list, he would probably be higher, but the point guards list, I think it's respectable to have him at number 9. At number 8, and this one might be a little bit of a, I guess, concern, but I'm really high on him, and if you guys haven't watched Cleveland, you should watch him a lot more, because Darius Garland is a young star who has taken strides this season. He was top 30 in points per game while being top 10 in assists per game. He matched last season's point per game total, but the real progression that I saw was in his efficiency and limiting the turnovers while boosting his three-point percentage. And with Darius Garland coming into this year, I'm expecting to see his assists, field goal percentage, and points per game go up as he continues to progress. The last 2 seasons, he's virtually been the same in those categories, so for him to move up, I need those stats to go up. I love the efficiency rising, but I need to see the efficiency go up and the raw numbers go up the same way we see for some of these other elite guys on the list. Next on the list, we got Jalen Brunson. Now, for Jalen Brunson, the mantra for him, another man's trash is another man's treasure. That's the best way to speak to Jalen Brunson's year. The Mavs didn't offer him the deal at all, despite what Mark Cuban says. We know you didn't offer him a deal because he said he would accept any deal you gave him. So the fact that he didn't accept it tells me you did not offer him. But I digress. He led the Knicks further in the playoffs than they had been in the past 10 years. 10 years, that's a whole decade, bro. Some people that are Knicks fans now, they've never seen them make it to this far in the playoffs, which is crazy to think about. He had a career year averaging 24, 6, and 3 on 49, 41, and 82 shooting splits, which is okay. Brunson's leadership was on full display all year, and with the Mavs struggling, it was clear what he brought to the table in Dallas, and we even saw clips of Lucas saying he missed him. If the Knicks continue to develop their guys like Toppin, Quickly, and Grimes, they're set for their future. Jalen Brunson is the perfect vet for those two guards, and while Obi continues to learn the two-man game the same way he did while Randall was out of the playoffs, he's gonna see a lot more minutes. As good as Brunson is, 7 to 6 on the list might just be his ceiling, but he might rise because the next guy on the list, he's gonna miss half of the season next year, and that's Ja Morant. Off-court issues aside, Ja Morant is him. We can't deny that. He's a great player, he's a great talent, and this is part of the reason his off-court issues are so dumb to us. He's a $100 million man, damn near 200 M's up and you're doing a lot of dumb stuff, but we're not here for that. Now, I almost had him above Trey, but I came to my senses very, very quickly, and I realized Ja didn't really get any better from the year before. The only area Ja really improved was his assist total, but even still, when you watch him on the court, there was no real leap in his ability to play make and facilitate, so that assist total rising, it's kind of misleading. Ja is more than likely to drop off on this list, like I said, due to missing half the season next year, but hopefully that gives him some motivation to come back and dominate and do what he needs to do and help his Grizzlies rise to their true potential. As I said before, I almost had him above Trey, so y'all already know who's next. Trae Young, a great point guard in this league, but I personally argue his style of play doesn't really mesh well with the pieces around him enough to translate into postseason success. A lot of people say he doesn't play winning basketball, but I disagree with that. I just think the team doesn't fit around him. Now, we could talk about the Eastern Conference Finals, but we know they overachieved, which pretty much doomed them in the same breath. Trae dipped a little bit in scoring, but that was made up for with his increased assist totals, and if his team was worth the fuck, the Hawks would have probably beat the Celtics, but with him pretty much being on his own and averaging 30 and 10, it's very, very hard to beat a very talented Celtics team, especially when you have a coach that is pretty new to the program. And when they have a full training camp under Quinn Snyder this year, I think the Hawks turn over a new leaf, and Trae Young, he's going to be even better than he was his last couple years. Now, personally, I want to see Trae on a team both contending and one that complements his skill set. I genuinely think he could average close to 12, 13 assists per game with more consistent pieces around him. But as it stands right now, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, Clint Capella, they're not doing it. He needs other pieces. Trae Young is probably one of the guys on this list that he's probably the most likely to dip into the top 3 or 4. And it depends on these next couple guys. And the next guy at number 4, De'Aaron Fox. Now, De'Aaron is a guy who rose from the bottom 10 at this position to the top 5 strictly off of this year alone. He had a career year in points, assists, rebounds, and field goal percentage. He was a dog this year. De'Aaron has finally gotten a team to match his efforts, but I'll be honest with you guys, his development has grown to be ready for this occasion. De'Aaron wasn't always this guy. Fox is only going to get better, and following his 6th season, I think year 7 is going to be special for him and the Kings. They finally got to a point in the playoffs where they've tasted success, and I think that team is truly, truly hungry behind one of the coaches of the year, my coach of the year, Mike Brown. Now, personally, I don't really see De'Aaron tapping into the top 3. That's not because he's not good enough, but these next 3 guys, they're just that good. Now, if you made it this far to the top 3, please consider dropping a sub, drop a like, and if you haven't already, drop your top 10, bro. I don't know what you're doing. You should have been did that at the beginning of the video, bro. Tighten up. Come on, bro. But at number 3, we got Dame Dollar. Y'all should have known who it was because he wasn't on the list before, so it's natural that that's who it is. But at this point, he needs to run from the grind. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Request a trade, get the fuck out of Portland. Now today, which is crazy that I waited to record this video today, he was on a podcast and someone asked him where he would preferably go between Miami, Brooklyn, and I can't remember the third team, but he said Miami without a doubt. Now, of course, they're a contending team. He wants a ring, so that's the clear answer. But the loyalty Dame has for Portland, it's crazy, but they do have that same sense of loyalty right back that we don't really see in not only the NBA, but all major sports leagues for the most part. Dame had the best season in his career last season, if you could believe that, averaging 32 points, which was 3rd in the league while being top 10 in assists. We all know what Dame brings to the table, and I think I speak for all basketball fans when I say we want him on a true contender. Dame is a playoff riser, and seeing him in a deep postseason run where he could really, really showcase his talents on the biggest stage is something that none of us have been able to witness, and we need to see it before he retires. Of course, he got a taste of it when they went to the Western Conference Finals, but we need to see it with the team we know for a fact has a shot to win. They got swept. He's arguably the greatest Blazer in history, and he's 2nd in their franchise in win shares for their team history with 103. Dame is going to go down as probably the best Blazer ever, but we really want to see him with a contender very soon, so hopefully that trade gets done, and they have a top pick, so it might get done sooner rather than later. But we jump to number 2 because if that does happen, we gonna drop a Dame video. And at number 2, and this might come as a surprise, I got Steph. which might be crazy because I haven't had Steph at number 2 probably in the last 10 years. Now, last year when I did this list, I did have Steph number 1 and it was undeniable. But this year he's at number 2, and that's not a knock on Steph. It never will be, who averaged almost 30 points per game, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds. It was a weird year for the defending champion Warriors, and throughout all the turmoil and chaos, Steph remains Steph, and he's always been that anchor for that team who keeps it cool under the most pressure. Steph is going to remain in the top 10 for the rest of his time in the NBA. We already know this, and rightfully so, but this next guy, he has an argument as a top 3 player in the NBA based on skill set and talent alone. And we all know who that is, and that's Luka Magic. Luka had his running mate leave to New York. Now, that's not Brunson's fault. That's not Luka's fault. That's his owner's fault. But he stayed the course. He had a career season averaging 30. And if you watched him this year, it looked like one of the easiest 30-point per game seasons I've seen in a very long time. It was one of those things where he was walking into 30. It was crazy. Same with Dame, honestly. Luka's one of those guys where he's a walking triple-double. He almost averaged it. And Luka has risen his efficiency both in shot make percentage, but also his turnovers, which is huge because he's the guy with the ball in his hands the absolute most. Going into his 6th year, I think it's safe to say Luka has entered his prime. He's not in the peak. He hasn't peaked yet, but his prime has just become, and we're due to see some fireworks for years to come. I'm going to warn you now, and I'm going to say this now. Mark Cuban, you need to desperately get Luka some help. Kyrie's not going to cut it. You need to get defenders, 3-and-D guys, and some vets in there so that y'all can actually make a run. Because if not, you're going to lose Luka. And that's a fair warning. We all know this, and I think you know this. Until that day comes, Luka is going to be the number 1 point guard in the league for some years to come, and I'm all for it because I love watching Luka. If you don't like watching Luka, do you really like basketball? I don't know. But that's all I got for you guys in this one. Like I said before, drop your top 10 point guards below. If you haven't done that already, like I said, tighten the fuck up before I knock. Never mind. I ain't even going to go there. If you're new and you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And that's all I got for you guys. It's your boy TB with the greatest hoop stories and debates on the tube. And it feels like I ain't said that in forever. But guess what? I'm back and I'm out. Peace.